Hello, everyone. My name is Blake Poland, and I'm in the Dalla School of Public Health at the University of Toronto, and happy to be talking with you today about the relational turn and its implications for planetary health. Last year, I asked the question, what if sustainability crisis is a relationship problem? What would that mean in terms of understanding how we've fallen out of right relationship with ourselves, each other, and the more than human world? And I turned my attention this time around to what's been written in the social sciences and humanities about the relational turn, as it's sometimes called, which is not a unitary approach or field or discipline, but rather a perspective on the nature of complex adaptive systems that emphasizes the relational nature and of emergence. And some of the work that is now starting to map out what this might mean for sustainability science, sustainability transition work, and planetary health. And really what the relational turn is a way of seeing how processes and relations are constitutive of entities rather than the byproduct of entities interacting. And it shifts our focus from nouns to verbs and to an understanding of how emergent embeddedness and relational entanglement are what give rise to a perpetual becoming. And we know already from work that's been done on the microbiome and Daniel Siegel's work on the nature of mind, this kind of always already entangled and meshed nature of phenomenon. And that has, as it turns out, unsurprisingly, huge implications for collapsing familiar if outdated dichotomies of mind, matter, nature, human, social, ecological, etc., and pointing us in the direction of understanding perpetual becoming, embodied experience, entanglement, and so forth. Of course, these are not entirely new ideas. In many indigenous ways of knowing have emphasized deep kinship with the natural world and relational sacred reciprocity with all of life, this notion of all my relations, in a way that emphasizes harmony, balance, and reciprocity. I'm not Indigenous myself, but I think it's very important to center Indigenous voices and support Indigenous sovereignty, self-determination, and resurgence, and also acknowledge the long lineage of thinking in this regard that has meant that in many of the places in the world, Indigenous peoples continue to be the most informed and careful stewards of the land. And also that we need to be plumbing the depths of the pluriverse and multiple perspectives to really unpack the assumptions embedded in planetary health, and to think about what the implications of framing climate change and ecological destruction as relationship problems might be, how we might critically unpack the colonial roots of planetary health and the systemic drivers of climate change and social inequity, so as to decolonize and perhaps also indigenize climate action and the SDGs, to focus on intentional reconfigurations of relational assemblages that emphasize emergence and co-production, and the implications this might have for transformative learning and public health education and pedagogy for the Anthropocene. West et al. Also add an element of feminist ethics of care in terms of attending to the relational webs in which we're all embedded. And this notion of relational accountability as ground zero for personal, institutional, and collective action is something we've drawn on in our own work around mutual aid and community resilience. I would like to add that really beyond mere obligation, we could bring an attitude of savoring and delight to the relational webs in which we're all embedded, and see that as a form of sacred reciprocity in terms of how we attend to those. And the Ecotopia novel, for those of you who haven't read it, is really a lovely description of a relational, sustainable future society that I found quite inspiring to look at. So thank you. I'll leave it there.